7:12, right? We good to go.
Everybody's around, so.
Yes, afternoon, members. As we resume, Standing Finance Committee, we are on Head 43, Ministry of Works and Transport. Head 43, Ministry of Works and Transport, is supplementation of 65,512,929. I will now invite the Minister of Works and Transport to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Mr. Vice Chair, the Ministry of Works and Transport is responsible for the infrastructure and the transportation network in Trinidad. And we're here this afternoon to answer any question pertaining to the two areas of allocation, one under the severance pay and retirement benefits, and the other for the vessel, the Jean de la Valette, for the Untitled Sea Bridge. We're prepared to answer any questions that might be forthcoming on the two areas. Thank you.
Honourable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 43, Ministry of Works and Transport, be supplemented by the sum of $65,512,929. Kuva note.
Thank you. Minister, with respect to the charter of an inter-island passenger vessel for $73 million, can you give us a breakdown of this cost?
Yes, we have the charter rate, it's $49 million. Rental for crew members, 804, and vehicles, 814,000. Local crew, 1,741,000. Diesel fuel and lubricants, 16,153,000. Insurance and professional fees, 1,323,000. Other operating costs, security, janitorial, port charges, 2,253,000. A total cost of 71 million, and NIDCO fees, and a total operating budget of 72,798,000.
Okay. And Minister, when can we anticipate the arrival of this vessel?
The purpose of this vessel is to add to the fleet, because this government did promise an improved sea bridge. We expect the Spirit to be taken out for dry docking by the end of July, and this vessel is expected in advance to ensure that we have two vessels in continuous operation on the sea bridge.
So is it that it will start operating before July?
It is expected to start operating before July.
Okay.
Member for Mayaro.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Minister, do you anticipate any additional costs for like berthing facilities or adjustments for this vessel when it comes in at both Port of Spain and Scarborough?
Minister.
There are some adjustments to both port, but it has to do with the infrastructure at the port, because we are also in preparations for the two new vessels that have to come in next year. So a lot of the work that is being done now, although some of it is to accommodate this vessel, it is to ensure that the Port Authority, both the location in Trinidad and Tobago, is on par to deliver an improved sea bridge. We do have challenges when we have cruise ships in the port. We have to cancel sailing. The way forward is to ensure that even when we have these cruise ships in port, both the sailing to Tobago and from Tobago will not be affected. So this infrastructure work is also to enhance that.
Is the work that is required, has it started, and any idea of the cost to get it to completion?
Again,
To accommodate this vessel, this particular vessel that is coming in?
okay, the work for this particular vessel is basically some ramp work. I don't have the exact cost at this time, but I can furnish that at a later date.
If you could provide it for us.
Sure.
Thank you.
Member for Point de Pierre.
Along this chart, you gave a cost of overall $71 million out of the 73, thereabouts, right? How long is this charter for, the time period of this charter?
This is a one-year charter with the option to renew for a further 6 months. Again, this is all with the vision going forward.
So
That once the new vessels arrive, then this vessel will be taken out of service.
so the 12-month charter cost is how much again?
Well, this is for the 12-month travel cost is approximately $145 million.
145.
Member for Kumuto Manzilina.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Minister, 04000701. Can you state the number of employees that will be paid severance and retirement benefits from this sum?
Okay, this
Minister?
is, the number of workers to be paid is 235. We did pay already 238. So this is to supplement the fund so that a further 235 employees can be paid.
Member, you good? You okay? Right, fine. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 43, Ministry of Works and Transport, be supplemented by the sum $65,512,929. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 43, Ministry of Works and Transport, has been supplemented by the sum $65,512,929. Thank you, Mr. Minister, and thank you, Madam PS, and all the senior executives from Ministry of Works.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks.
Yeah, just wanted to the Minister of Finance that all assurances of answers that would be given that won't be able to give today would be given to the members in due course or as soon as possible.
Practice.
Just
Okay. Right, so we
Which
are sure.
practice shall be applied, except for Naparima. Everybody getting everything except Naparima.
Thank you, Mr. Minister.
Would we, one other thing, Chair, would we get it before Monday?
Mr. Minister, he's asking a time frame.
Some of the questions are easy to answer, some are complicated, so they'll do it as quickly as possible. And usually, the budget division makes their best effort to provide the Parliament with the written answers before the debate.
Thank you.
They'll try their best.
Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, we move on to Head 61, Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. Head 61, Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, a supplementation of $48 million. I will now invite the Minister of Housing and Urban Development to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of no more than 5 minutes. Mr. Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development is primarily responsible for the formulation and execution of government's policy as it relates to housing and urban development sectors. And we do that to various agencies. However, with respect to today's request through the supplementary appropriation for 2019, we're focusing on requests from the Housing Development Corporation and the land settlement agencies with a capital expenditure of $48 million. And we hope that these will be distributed through 3 projects, namely the rehabilitation and maintenance of agency rental apartments and housing units, the Housing and Village Improvement Program, and the regularization and regeneration of communities' Greater Port of Spain region. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Welcome, Madam PS, and to your senior executives from the ministry. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 61, Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, be supplemented by the sum of $48 million. Member for Uprichis.
Chair, and thank you, Minister. Just a couple questions. Some questions may require supplying information in the days ahead, but some you may be able to answer. On the matter of rehabilitation and maintenance of HDC rental apartments and housing, supplemental for 20 million, would you be able to provide in writing the areas, the apartments and the estates in particular, where this money would be utilized, the works?
I can do that, but it's primarily for the Greenville area. Primarily for Greenville. As you know, there was a situation in Greenville based on the flood in 2018, October 2018.
Minister, then could you indicate whether this money is to pay outstanding bills for the cleanup and refurbishment and so on, rather than to do new works?
It is basically to pay out for most of the situation that was dealt with in Greenville and Oakwood to some extent.
Okay. I am aware that there was some substantial damage in that area to properties and so on. Would you provide, therefore, a list of the contractors and outstanding payments that would be used for this $20 million, where it would be used?
We can do so.
Okay, thank you. The village housing and village improvement program, could you indicate as well where exactly this 18 million would be used, in which area, and what specifically are the programs, the village improvement programs to be undertaken? I did take note that you have had village improvement programs, I believe, in Moruga, and an ongoing one in San Fernando West, I believe now. Is it other areas that you are involving with this program? And if we may ask for a list of the targeted village improvement programs to utilize this supplemental vote of $18 million.
All right. The 18 million is based on, out of that 18 million, 6 million is really based on bills and so on from previous
programs.
Programs. However, there's another, for the other half of this fiscal year, we plan to do another 100 units at a cost of 120,000 per unit. The areas are still being surveyed right now as we speak. So we have not determined those areas yet.
Not determined.
They're all based on social surveys.
Minister, could I ask, what is the process, if you could just reiterate the process, in the event that there are some areas that members may have in their own locality that may fix the policy framework, may synchronize with your policy framework to apply for this type of assistance for village improvement program?
Right. The process is based on a social survey of the areas done by the Land Settlement Agency. And this program really looks at the neediest in various communities, the very poor in those communities. And so LSA would do a social survey. And based on the social survey, they'll identify who the neediest in the society that require this kind of attention. And based on that, those are the people that are targeted. Those are the locations that are targeted.
Could I ask if the potential recipients of this assistance would also be required to have a certificate of comfort?
Not necessarily, no.
So they may be out-and-out squatters?
They could be, yes.
Could be?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The regularization and regeneration of communities in the greater Port of Spain area. Again, would you be in a position to state specifically what the $10 million would be used for in the greater Port of Spain region? Right. And by greater Port of Spain region, Mr. Minister, you could just tell us for the record what we understand greater Port of Spain to be.
The greater Port of Spain touches the Port of Spain itself, but also goes outside in the urban areas as far west as Carinage. And as far east as Sawa. Greater Port of Spain.
Yeah.
So
and the
urban areas around Port of Spain.
The specific projects that you may have, the specific projects you have in mind to utilize the $10 million?
Sure, there are a number of different, I'll tell you, most of the projects that are done touches on development in these areas with respect to roads, drains, sometimes based on the topography, hillside steps and railings going up various hillsides and so on. And it's a number of areas communities are being considered, and I can call them if you wish me to do so.
Excuse me?
The various areas being considered.
Sure.
Yeah.
But would you have a list of the areas that are being, you can supply that at some other time?
I can supply that some other time.
Sure.
Be supplied in writing. Member for Naprima, you still have a question?
The Housing and Village Improvement Program. Could the Minister, I know you said you have a list where this program will be implemented. Could you give an idea whether at all, and it's only one, any area in the constituency of Naprima is being considered, has been considered?
As I said, it's based on a survey, that social survey. So we have not, I have not identified those for the next half of the fiscal years yet. Social survey is being done right now.
Right.
So that's based on the survey, that determines where we are trying.
Could you indicate whether that survey is being conducted in any part of Naprima? Given the fact that we have really areas of need, real need in that constituency.
Yes,
Minister,
it is.
could you shed light on?
Yes, it is. It is being done in Naprima. It is being done. It is being done.
No, I was talking
No,
housing and village
members-
improvement program, sir.
Honorable members, okay, Naprima, Minister of Finance, please. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 61, Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, be supplemented by the sum $48 million. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 61, Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, has been supplemented by the sum of $48 million. Thank you, Minister of Housing. Thank you, Madam PS, and to your senior executives from the ministry. Thank you. We did police. Welcome, Mr. Minister. Welcome, Madam PS. Head 65, Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. Head 65, Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, a supplementation of $6 million. I will now invite the Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes. Mr. Minister.
Thank you, Chair. The Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs has been engaged in careful management of expenditure during this financial year. The Ministry has been doing so mindful of the need to undertake its responsibilities and to deliver services at the standard at which it is required so to do. During the first half of the financial year 2018 to 2019, the Ministry has utilized funds allocated and released to undertake relevant activities in the field of the Ministry and with respect to ensuring proper operation of Trinidad and Tobago's diplomatic missions. With specific reference to these missions, it was determined that certain repairs to flagship missions were required. The funds to be allocated for this exercise will address these needs to ensure adequate and appropriate support for the work of the government in the jurisdictions of Washington, D.C. and London. It is the intention that the repairs to the Chancery in Washington, D.C. will ensure adherence to building code requirements for the jurisdiction, as well as standards required for disabled access, including an elevator. Similarly, Madam Chair, in London, it is the intention to undertake necessary repair to the Chancery to maintain the integrity of the building as well as the image of Trinidad and Tobago. Pressing transport needs will be addressed by the purchase of vehicles as well. It is anticipated that the supplementary funds will address these issues. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 65, Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, be supplemented by the sum of $6 million. Member for Naparima.
Thank you. Refurbishment of the Chancery Embassy in Washington, $2.6 million. Am I correct? Yeah. All right. And I'm referring to a report, but I have a question for you. And the report of the Auditor General identified some problems with the properties in properties owned by the Trinidad and Tobago Embassy. And it identified electrical problems, roofing, etc. I'm specifically concerned about the residents in Washington. And I say so, Madam Speaker, because when in 2014, repairs were done to the living accommodation of the ambassador in New York, and they found that buildings of that era in the United States contained asbestos. So it meant that all the ambassadors, or a number of the ambassadors before me, were exposed to asbestosis, etc. The question I'm asking, in Washington, the building is of the same age. Is attention at all being paid to the rehabilitation of the ambassador's residence in Washington? Or is this money only to be used for the Chancery?
Minister.
Madam Chair, cognizant of the priorities of the ministry and equally aware of the financial restraints within which we operate, we intend to undertake these works on a phased basis, and the amount herein cited, meaning $2,600,000, is meant to cover expenses related to wheelchair access, fire escape, provision of a lift, and installation, of course, a ramp for disabled persons as well. That is the coverage of the sum contemplated here.
On humanitarian concerns, all I ask is that please check the Chancery in Washington, just to ensure that there's no exposed asbestos in that building. But I go on, Madam Chair. The 1.5 million for vehicles, given the fact that you would not be paying taxes on these, the acquisition of these vehicles, it would probably work out to about 6 or 7 vehicles. Could you give an idea how this would be allocated between Washington and London?
Minister.
Madam Chair, our calculation differs somewhat from the one just mentioned. We have a number of missions beyond the 2 cited, but in this instance, our intention is to make available a much reduced number of vehicles with the sum contemplated herein.
Could you give us the number of vehicles you budgeted for?
We think the number is 4.
And these are to be allocated 2 each, or?
We propose to allocate them primarily to those 2 missions. The final definition is yet to be established.
So therefore, they were not based on requests from those missions and the need for those missions. It's based on a number, and then you'll subsequently allocate.
The Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs undertake its work in a very systematic and thorough fashion, and that allows us to treat the matter as
I give up. Next question.
Member for Princestown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam, on the same line item, could the Honourable Minister indicate what...
2201.
Correct,
Yes.
ma'am. Could the Honourable Minister indicate whether or not the Ministry have identified what type of vehicles will be purchased, and if the Minister can give us an idea, if he doesn't have the information now, but subsequently provide us with what type of vehicle, and whether or not any of these vehicles have been procured or will be procured for the use of the High Commissioner and or the Ambassador in Washington.
Madam Chair, with much enthusiasm, we would supply the information just requested. The specification as regards persons who would almost be beneficiaries of particular vehicles. That is not our orientation.
Madam, just to clarify for the minister, could the minister indicate whether or not any of these vehicles that are being purchased will be specifically or has been specifically identified by the mission or the ministry for the exclusive use for the ambassador or the high commissioner?
Not in that way, certainly not in that way. There's nothing personal or highly personalized, but
I'd like you to allow the Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs to answer the question, please.
But certainly we would make the information available to you. Once defined, we would certainly make the information available to you.
Member for Kamuta Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hope I can make this as simple as possible. But Honorable Minister, can you tell me if you have an idea of when you expect to purchase these vehicles in terms of taking everything into consideration?
Madam Chair, the month is May. The current financial period ends in September, thereabouts. So our intention is to ensure that the vehicles are purchased during that span.
Member for Princestown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam, with respect to line item 0900506064, as well as line item 09005006F004, which deals with refurbishment of the High Commission and the Embassy in Washington, can the Honourable Minister indicate whether or not these sums reflected, respectively for both, whether or not these sums reflect the total amount that will be required to complete the works?
Minister.
Madam Chair, the Chancery in London is a historical one, excuse me. Consequently, certain repairs are necessary. In the case of that building, roof repairs, the facade especially, highly expensive undertakings. And as I mentioned, what I've mentioned before, as regards Washington, it involves wheelchair access, fire escape, and so on. And that is the coverage. I might have missed the latter part of the question. Could you repeat it, please?
Sure, Honourable Minister, I understand your limitation. No offense meant, ma'am. I will proceed with the question.
But even though no offense meant, sometimes it does sound like that. And I'm sure you didn't mean it. So
no, I did
take
not.
out the qualification. Thank you.
Certainly, madam. Madam, to repeat the question for the Honourable Minister, does this sum of 2.6 million with respect to Washington and 1.8 million with respect to the High Commission in London reflect the total amounts that would be needed to complete the works?
Thank you very much, Chair. Gratuitous expression certainly would carry us a long way towards getting information. And in that regard, I would like to say the answer is no. That is why I prefaced my remarks by saying that the building, the Chancery in London, is an historical one, and it is an expensive undertaking and an ongoing exercise. Consequently, that sum cited would not be able to cover all the required refurbishment.
Thank you, madam. To the Honourable Minister. Honourable Minister, can you give us then an idea of how much will be required to complete all the work?
In which one? Are we on London or are we on Washington?
Both, madam.
In each?
Yes.
Okay.
That scoping has not yet been done, and I'm not able to provide any such figure.
Member for Princestown.
Thank you, madam. Madam, to the Honourable Minister, could the Honourable Minister indicate when did the ministry take this decision to refurbish both the Washington Chancery and the London Chancery?
Minister.
Within the ministry, it's an ongoing exercise. I cannot recall exactly when, but we take the decisions after thorough processing of requests from our missions.
Member for Princestown.
Thank you, madam. Madam, to the Honourable Minister, I am almost certain that the ministry will have their record in terms of when this decision was taken. Would the Honourable Minister be kind enough to provide us subsequently with this information in terms of when specifically this decision was taken for these two refurbishments and its expenditure?
Madam Chair, configured in the way that is being requested of me, I am doubtful whether I can supply that information, but we will endeavor to satisfy the requirements and needs of the honourable member.
Member for Point of View, do you have a question? Okay, thank you.
He's just back from
Honourable
the line.
members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 65, Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, be supplemented by the sum of $6 million. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 65, Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, has been supplemented by the sum of $6 million. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Madam PS. Head 71, Ministry of Communications. Head 71, Ministry of Communications, a supplementation of $10 million. I will now invite the Minister of Finance to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes.
On communications.
I understand this to be the Minister of Finance's show, so I expect you'll be able to carry on.
Well, thank you. The Trinidad and Tobago Television Company has some rather antiquated equipment, has had that for some time, and it is necessary to assist the company by giving it modern production and broadcast equipment. As you would know, Madam Speaker, in the modern age, this equipment can become obsolete very quickly. So this is simply to assist TTT to upgrade this equipment to the latest technology.
Honourable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation, and may I correct myself, for Head 70, Ministry of Communications, be supplemented by the sum of $10 million. Member for Naparima.
Minister, when TTT was inaugurated, we were told that it would be a profitable organization and self-financing. And if that is true, if it is true, why are we at this stage providing $10 million to support an organization that the intent was to be financially independent? And does this indicate that TTT, once again, will be like all its predecessors, non-profitable organizations?
Madam Chair, I apologize humbly for not being here for the start. Might the member for Naparima just repeat his question, please?
Or the question is, why do we have to provide state subvention to an organization whose articles of association suggest that it was established to be financially independent of the state?
Madam Speaker, we've long since moved away, as any practicing attorney would know, from the old articles of association and incorporation that had to give you the lifeline and the parameters within which you have to operate. We took a decision as an administration to keep the state television service operational and to rebrand it as TTT to get away from what was previously occurring as CNMG. And I wouldn't want to use this afternoon to get into how that organization was being utilized, especially in the period of 2014 and 2015. And they talk about subventions and Project Icon and Voices and Philip Alexander and Gregory Bissessa and all of these people. TTT is now a proper organization. There's a good board in place, and it is working towards the provision of a service. They are making revenue, albeit not as much as we would like as yet. and they are providing a service to the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
But, hold on, but more importantly, or equally importantly, if you read what is in the document, it talks about live broadcast production.
Correct.
And page 11, it
That's
speaks
why I was
about an
surprised
increase
at
in
the question.
live broadcast productions.
Yeah.
And nowadays, the equipment that is used for live broadcast is very different to what it used to be. Just a few years ago, you can go live on Facebook now with a very small device. So this is really to assist TTT in its live broadcast, to upgrade its equipment.
But to add to what the Minister of Finance is saying, when we say live broadcast here, it is not the social media type of live broadcast. That wouldn't cost $10 million, as those on the other side are well aware. What we're looking at is upgrading for example, the big vehicles that you park outside when you're going to go live with live broadcasts and these types of things, and those are what cost substantial amounts of money.
Given the fact that we're still in the realm of subventions, would the minister indicate whether the rebranding was just a change of name? And could you give us the profitability of the organization since it was established?
The organization has not yet started to turn a profit, and no, the rebranding of it was not just a change of name. Maybe it was to get rid of the smell of 2014 and 2015. Lysol.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. Minister, could you just provide a figure in terms of how much the monthly subvention or the annual subvention, such as these,
Madam
as
Chairman,
this?
I don't think it's relevant.
How many?
If you could give an idea of any subvention at all from the state to this new entity.
Madam Chairman, just let me clarify something. The member for Naparima is speaking about subventions and so on. This is a wholly owned state enterprise. And like all state enterprises, from time to time, the shareholder would inject equity into the company by way of working capital, by way of funds for plant upgrade and so on. So this is simply an equity injection by the shareholder into a wholly owned state enterprise, which is standard.
Minister, when there's an equity injection, it's always premised on an expectation of an ROI, a return on investment.
Not necessarily.
So you're saying that you do not expect a return on this investment?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just say it's an equity injection.
Member for Princess Down.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. The explanation provided also speaks about an increase in live broadcast productions. And the question really is with respect to program scheduling that would necessitate $10 million for live broadcast productions. Could you give us an idea of what areas of program scheduling will create this increase in live broadcast productions?
Ma'am, as I said a short while ago, the equipment to be able to broadcast live from a venue, so for example, a four-rum, I think that's what it is, a four-rum meeting on a Monday night, if they wanted to broadcast live from down behind Kwaito or down in Port of Spain, wherever it is, the type of equipment you need to put outside to be able to then send the broadcast signal back to the headquarters, that is what it is for.
Member for Princess Town. Okay. Member for County Central.
The Minister partially answered. I was going to ask if live coverage meant political meetings, so at least as part of the inclusion. I just wanted to ask that.
Madam Speaker, as far as I'm aware, every single television station in the country offers a service to anyone whatsoever once it is a legal event that's taking place that you can broadcast live. This certainly is not being done for this side of the house. As I said, it could be for this is not Icon, this is not Voices, this is not the expenditure of taxpayers' money to the tune of $50 million for TV screens that never worked, etc. This is equipment that anyone who wants to purchase a service from TTT to show live, be it jazz, be it Tobago Jazz, any of these types of events, would be able to hire TTT to be able to provide a live broadcast service.
Member for Caroni East.
The original budget that you had allocated for TTT as a state enterprise was $16 million. Did you not foresee, or you're saying that you need equipment now, and it is under the heading operational expenses. Are there other counterparts in that terminology, operational expenses, beside equipment? Are there human resource personnel included in that?
That's not what we're here for this 10 million, no.
No, but you said, could you explain what you mean by operational expenses? You went on one arm to say that you need equipment, but you could explain what is the operational
That is exactly what it means, equipment. That is an operational expense.
So that is the sole issue?
It's for equipment.
So $10 million for equipment?
Yes.
To be able to broadcast live.
All right, so why didn't you put it as equipment rather than putting it under the heading operational expenses?
I'm sorry, next time I'll put
it is meant to
equipment.
deceive. Yeah.
Member.
Hold on.
Member.
The only deceitful ones are...
No, okay. We're not
Take
going-
that back.
Excuse me, we're not going down the road
right.
with that conversation. Member for Caroni East, I know you
Yes,
meant
yes.
it,
No,
to
he
bring
didn't.
light,
Yeah.
but I don't
Very
think
well mean it.
it came across that way, so maybe you could just
Yeah, you're
withdraw
all
that
right.
comment.
I withdraw that, yeah.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 70, Ministry of Communications, be supplemented by the sum of $10 million. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 70, Ministry of Communications, has been supplemented by the sum of $10 million. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, members of your team. Head 78, Ministry of Social Development and Family Services. Head 78, Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, a supplementation of $227,548,500.
Before you call somebody.
Minister of Finance, are you taking this? I will now invite the Minister of Social Development and Family Services to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes. Minister.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The schedule for the senior citizen pension that was implemented in January 2019 was reviewed based on the new measures announced in the fiscal 2019 budget, and it was determined that there is need for a revision to align it with what was mentioned in the 2019 budget. Specifically, the 2019 budget presentation outlined that persons in receipt of a national insurance pension of $3,000 will receive a senior citizen pension of $3,000. The schedule implemented in January 2019 reflected a different position in that the threshold income band of $3,000 provided for a payment of $2,500 and not $3,000 as announced in the budget. Cabinet has agreed that the schedule to the senior citizen pension be amended to include the new income band exceeding $2,500 but not exceeding $3,000. This is expected to result in 21,618 persons receiving an increase of $500. In addition, funds totaling $126 million were wired from the senior citizen pension vote to effect payment of disaster relief grants to flood victims affected by the October and November 2018 floods. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 78, Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, be supplemented by the sum of $227,548,500. Member for Faizabad.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, can you indicate, with regards to the amount that was wired to assist flood victims, can you provide the amount that would have been allocated to flood victims in St. John's Trace and Aqua Trace area by the amount and the numbers if possible?
Madam Chair, I will have to give that information in writing subsequently.
Member for Kamutu Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, you indicated that 21,000 plus had received increases with the new income band. Can you identify or tell me how many persons currently receive the senior citizens grant in total?
96,870 persons currently receive the senior citizen pension.
And can you indicate what is the total number of persons who were affected by the heavy rainfall during October and November 2018 that received a grant from the ministry?
The number of persons who received.
As at December, we would have processed 9,526 applications.
You would have processed. So does that mean that there are still persons yet to be assessed?
We have completed the assessment for an additional 1,106 persons. However, there are still 900 just now, I'll give you the exact figure. 939 additional assessments that have been done but have not been processed.
And the persons who have not been assessed, how soon can they be expected to be assessed?
By the end of this month.
And when will persons begin to receive their checks?
The checks will be distributed on a phased basis. We expect to commence payment within the next week, and we hopefully we should complete that by the end of June.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Madam Minister, the $90 million that you're seeking, if there are people who haven't been assessed and have to be paid, how do you intend to deal with that? Would the $90 million be sufficient for that? Is that incorporated?
Yes, it is. We would have projected based on all the applications received.
That's 1,100 plus 900
Yes.
to be done still?
Yes.
All right.
It also includes 534 additional persons to be paid in the southern region for the floods that occurred here in November.
All right, okay.
Member for Faitata. Member for Princestown.
Thank you, Madam. To the Honourable Minister, can you indicate whether both persons who enjoy the NIS as well as the senior citizens grant will benefit from this?
Yes.
Yes.
The persons who are in receipt of 3,000 NIS, they will now receive 3,000 senior citizen pension if that's their only income. The NIS is their only income.
Okay.
Okay. Member for Naparima.
Minister, would you be kind enough to supply, not today, but in writing, the number of applicants who were affected by flood victims in the constituency of Naparima and how many were approved? That is of the 9,000. And I understand you would not have it now.
Sure.
You could provide that in writing. Sure. Thank you.
Member for Oropouche West.
Honourable Minister, I think it's a similar line of questioning as Naparima. If you could be kind enough to give me the list of the outstanding persons in Oropouche West who still need to be paid for the floods in 2017 and
Sure,
even
Madam
last
Chair.
year. Thank you.
Member for Kamutu Manzanilla.
Madam Minister, could you indicate whether it will be the ministry who will be conducting the final assessments, or will it be the regional corporations?
The ministry staff will be conducting these assessments.
Honourable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 78, Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, be supplemented by the sum of $227,548,500. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 78, Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, has been supplemented by the sum of $227,548,500. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Madam PS and your team. Honourable members, there being no further heads to be supplemented, I now put the question as follows. Honourable members, the question is that the appropriation for the fiscal year 2019 be supplemented by the sum of $1,839,189,300. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The appropriation for fiscal year 2019 has been supplemented by the sum of $1,839,189,300. Honorable members, please note that the debate for the adoption of the committee's report will take place on Monday, May 13, 2019. The time will be confirmed on Friday's sitting, whether we sit in the morning or only in the afternoon. This meeting of the Standing Committee is now adjourned.
Follow the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago on Twitter. Our call sign is @TTParliament.
As citizens,